Hi there and welcome to Neuro Digest. Our show today is going to be lit. We have a guest and I'm sure you all are curious and I can't wait to present it to you. I'm your host Sylvia Mochabo and we have our interpreter Maureen. And I did not want to be the one to drop it, but I wanted to do it herself. We have a guest all the way from South Africa. And you can see today I'm not alone wearing the sash. So that tells you it's VIP treatment. So I will ask her to introduce herself. And we're all excited to find out Neuro Digest. Why is she here? You'll find out in a bit. So, Mother.
Thank you, Sylvia, for having me. Hello, viewers at home. My name is Lucia Ochan, Mrs. Africa Club 2019. I'm an ambassador for Play Your Part Brand SA. I'm also a CEO of Lucia O Holdings and the founder and patron of Lucia O Foundation. I'm also a founder of Young Chamber of Commerce and Industries in South Africa in Mpumalanga. I chair Young Men Desk in our province, in our district municipality where I chair within the Women's Council. And I am a businesswoman, entrepreneur. I'm a social activist and a philanthropist.
Yes. All that and more. So the bombshell is our Mrs. Africa shares the same vision as I do, as Andy Speaks. As you know, this show is brought to you courtesy of Andy Speaks for special needs persons. And Lucia is a mother of 2 boys.
Yes.
And one of them is actually has ADD, right?
Yeah.
ADD. So remember we have highlighted before what attention deficit hyperactivity disorder is, and we'd like to dive into the life of mine. I always tell you cannot sit still. Now today we go to the other side of the fence where they sit too still. Yes, you heard me right. They sit too still. So you can tell us how your son is, how old, what are the characteristics of being hypo. And how did you find out and how did you react? I know that will take you a while, but take your time.
You know, when you give birth as a mother, you give birth to a healthy baby, smiling, crying. He does everything. But when it comes to milestones, you know, there's changes. The milestones are not the same. Delayed perhaps in walking. So mine walked 3 days before he could turn 1. And in terms of speech, she started, having a proper speech by the age of 2 to 3 years. 2 to 3 years. And for me, that was delayed compared to his younger brother, because when he said when he wanted food, he would have to point out that he wants food. When he wanted certain things, he had to point out. I'm married to a physician. He's a palliative and pain specialist. At that time, I would tell my husband he was a doctor. Then he hasn't done physician. So I would tell him that there's something wrong with this child, because by now he should be doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and he'd be like, no, children, they develop differently, they don't develop at the same time. But as a mother, you know very well that when something is not right, it's not right.
And you can feel it.
You can feel it, it's not that you're comparing children, but when you read books, even though you're not a doctor, you know exactly that these are the milestones and these are the steps that a child should be doing. So he started his, play group. Teachers will tell you that your child struggles with 1, 2, 3, and he struggles to be in a group. Since he was small, he'll struggle to sit in a group or to relate with other kids. And I would think no, not my child. As a mother, you're forever protective of your children because you expect the best out of them. Up until he was in grade I don't know what level is that. So they have your play group preschool, when Polly is in preschool before he can go to primary school. Okay. To start grade 1. I don't know if
we have the same
similar. Okay. So before he could go to grade 1, the teachers set us and told us, the challenges that he's facing at school in terms of being in a group, in terms of finishing his work on time, in terms of tidying up, and he's not ready for grade 1. So just imagine as a mother, you are excited that this is a year my child will be wearing school uniforms and going to a grade, but he couldn't. But when I sat down and told my son, because now as a mother I have to tell him that your friends are going to grade 1, you're not. He bluntly told me, I'm not ready for grade 1.
Oh, so he accepted it.
He accepted it. I'm not ready for grade 1. That is when I realized that no, there is a problem. There is a serious problem. So this is when we opted to take him to an educational psychologist. It's for him to be seen and be assessed as well to see where he lies. So when the educational psychologist did her assessment, they've realized that he was 10 months. In some instance, he was 10 months behind
his age.
For example, reading, he will be like 6 months behind. In some instance, sitting, muscles, he'll be like 6 months, 10 months, 8 months behind and other kids. So he wasn't, how can I put it?
If you compare, that is when you compare to what we consider normal, he
so was behind it. And they recommended a special school based in White River. And this is when the whole family decided to make a whole change in 2014 because we're based in a small town in Malalan. Then we decided to make a total move to Northside so that we can accommodate him going to the school. So Flamboyant, that's the school, which is a beautiful school, and they have everything that you need from an educational psychologist, occupational therapist
within the school
system, and then a speech therapist. So everything that they do it's merged, it's integrated into the So it's integrated, meaning that he will have his classes, but he will have a class for speech. He'll have his classes, he'll have his class for psychologist or for occupational therapy. So my son now is 16 years old, he's a teenager. And he's doing very well.
Let me take you back a bit. So when your family had to move, that means that was a big change for all of you. That means you work for your husband, school, and the life of the siblings. Right?
It was yes, it was a huge change. A huge change.
How did you deal with it?
For me, it wasn't that difficult because this is when I established my clinic. By then I was still I had my hair salon, I had my boutique, and the other properties that I do in Malalan. But then this is when I said, okay, let me go just full time and start my clinic, which is a skincare clinic. I'm a dermatologist by profession, of which I've done advanced medical aesthetics. So I do chemical peels, I do treatments within my clinic. So for me, it worked for me. But for my husband, he still travels, from Northside to, so it does about 90 k's. I think about 120 k's per day.
In a day?
Yeah, going to work. But we just felt like, we cannot put our children in a transport for them to go to school. Either one of us has to travel, than them traveling and being on the road, for a long day. So for him, with Flamboyant, the system of the school is that there are 6 children in a classroom. If it's 5, it's 5. If it's 2, it's 2. If it's 1, it's 1.
And how many teachers?
For them, there's normally 2. There's a teacher and a helper in a classroom. Yeah, so there's 2 teachers in a classroom, and it's doing very, very well because he has done very well. He's no longer going to occupational therapy. He's no longer doing the psychologist. He only sees the psychologist twice in a year. The only thing that he's stuck with is still the speech therapy. So there is, you can see a lot of improvement since he started 2014 up until now, So we are really happy. So what we've done is that we made sure that him and his brother go to the same school, so that we don't separate them. And there's no difference. So so with him, what will happen? The complaints will be, there will be a time where he will just days off, like zone off, like maybe he just had an episode, just a short episode, and is back again. We went to neurosurgeons, we did brain scans, to check the equilibrium of the brain. Everything was in balance, Then they realized, no, he has ADD, which means he has the hypo. There are times where he just zones off and daydreams. But he's very good in science.
We always say special children have a superpower, so you always have to find what your child's superpower is. I'm still hung on that. So from the time you changed, he's been in the same school. And how old was he? How old was he when you were making these changes?
Just because he was supposed to start grade 1 when he was going for 7, so which means he started grade 1 at the age of 8.
So it's been 8 years.
Yeah, so it's been 8 years.
In the same school.
The same school, we never moved him. Remember, they need to be they get familiar to their surroundings.
Yes,
so you can't change them too often. So you have to keep them where they are. So now flamboyant is up until grade, I'll tell you, I think grade 9. Yes, grade 9. So he's in grade 9 now. Okay. So for grade 10, he'll be going to a mainstream.
A mainstream school. So he's been prepared.
So they prepare them and get them ready so that they are able to cope within a mainstream system of schooling. So which is no longer more dependent. So they win them off being dependent from a teacher or being in a small class. So they start integrating them. When it comes to sports, they don't do sports on their own. They do sports with all the schools in the province. So they get integrated. The difference is just the learning system of which they have to pick up where they are lacking. And it really helps. As a mother, it has helped me a lot because they stay in school up until 5. So that's what we have done. And then they have aftercare.
Do they? Aftercare, like after school now?
After school ends at 12:30
or
right. 1:30.
Really?
Then from there up until 5, they have aftercare.
So what do they do during aftercare?
Aftercare, they do homework and they are helped by psychologists. OT or speech therapy that will sit with them and help them with homework. And the best is what I will advise parents at home. They must make sure that they read books, encourage them to do a lot of reading, not too much games. They have to do games here and there, but reading books because then it improves their speech and they learn new words and they get inquisitive and wanting to
so he can read.
He can read very well. So he can read very well.
Like just read to process or read out loud also. Because I've seen you say he's still having speech therapy, right?
The speech, remember, he knows all the words, but there's certain words that he cannot pronounce properly. And remember, in each and every grade, there's new words that are being introduced, that are coming in. So, the speech therapy then comes in and assists in terms of those words. But he's doing very well because his last reports that we had, he had geography and history. He had paper marks, and of which those subjects I would have expected not to have maybe mathematics, because in mathematics he gets 90s, 95%.
So he's the mathematician.
Yes, and he's very good in sketching, he's very good in drawing, so they're very good in creative. Yes, they are creative at the same time. So it's a matter of balance.
I am quite intrigued. I'm like, everything you're saying, I'm just thinking like, our system, when will we get there? Trust you me, I'm sure even the parents are like, what do you mean the same school? We struggle. I changed my son like 5 times before he could settle where he is. First of all, because ours is expensive and I want us to we'll go back to education in detail and the cost and how you are accommodated now in the community. But now in your life, like when we look at him being hypo, did you have to also change like your diet to accommodate him still? Because we're advised to really work on diet also.
So for them, it's not like the government school. So it's the private school.
It's a private school.
We place them in private school. So they advise the change of diet. Dietitian where they don't have to consume sugar. Especially the ones which are hyper, you have to cut out sugar. You have to cut out what is it? Fine processed food and your fine carbs in terms of cakes and they actually have to eat clean. This is when you introduce a clean diet in your own household, where you do a lot of veggies and fruits. So my house is full of veggies and fruits. So they've got to learn to eat fruits and they drink a lot of water, juice, you have to check if it's 100% juice and you have to dilute again with water so that it's not too sweet. So there's a whole lot that you change because if you give them what they're not supposed to eat, then there's an imbalance. Then you'll be getting issues and
reactions and meltdown.
What has helped as well, I know so many parents are anti-medication. We did put him on medication, of which he started taking Ritalin, and it has helped a lot. The dose has been cut down slowly. By the time he's older, he's going to wean it off, and that allows them to cope in the classroom and also in the environment.
Did the doctor, before he prescribed the Ritalin, did he guide you through it? Did he explain to you why they're giving? Because I'm thinking, I thought Ritalin was for hyper. So when you say he's hypo and he's been given Ritalin, I'm like, oh hey.
Yes, remember with with them, if they are hyper, they don't focus for a long time as well, because then this is when they doze off. They're no longer interested. They wander around. They look at outside what is happening. So what Ritalin does, it gives them the composure where they are able to cope to a long span of hours, sitting for a long time. They cannot sit maybe for 2 hours. So the medication, what it does, it allows them to sit longer for 2 hours, maybe for an hour, so that they are able to absorb what is going on within the classroom. So with him, it wasn't given by a normal doctor, so it was given by a specialist, which is a pediatrician,
pediatric neurologist.
Yeah, neurologist. So that's the one that gave according to their weight as well. So we'll drive to Sunning Hill. So it's a lot of expenses. So you sacrifice as a parent. So we, with that we don't even have one in our own province. So we had to drive to Sunning Hill, that is Johannesburg.
How far is that?
It's about almost 4 hours.
4 hours drive.
To go and see a specialist so that your child, will able to cope. And so it's a sacrifice that you do as a parent to make sure your child is in a better state.
Wow, as you can hear, the same things we go through, it's the same all over Africa. I'd like for us to take a short break and then we'll come back. If you have any questions, kindly don't forget to indulge us on our SMS number. That's 20508. Send in your text or drop us a message on my IG handle, which is Andy Speaks, or our Twitter handle, Andy Speaks 4, or you can message me directly on Twitter at Mochabo, at Mora Sylvia, and on Instagram at Sylvia Mochabo. I need to align that. But yes, let's take a short break and we'll be right back and dive more about her experience being in South Africa and raising a special needs child. Don't go away. Stay right here. Thank you. And like we had said earlier, this is Neuro Digest here on Science TV with me, Sylvia Mochabo, and our interpreter, Maureen Maitha. And today we have a special guest all the way from South Africa, and that is Madam Lucia, Mrs. Let me call it right, Mrs. Lucia Ochan, all the way from AC Mpumalanga. I got it right.
Yes,
I got it right. Mpumalanga is one of the provinces in South Africa, and she's a special needs parent, and that's why she's here. And on top of that, as you can read from her sash, she's Mrs. Africa Globe. So that's what I aspire. So I'm looking up to her when that time comes. Like that's beside the point. So we're continuing with our conversation about how it is raising a special needs child, and in this case, her child has ADD, which is one of the spectrums on ADHD, a neurodiverse condition that we are going to dive in further as we have just introduced it. And we would like to know, we've heard about the school. So Lucia, tell us. So your child is in a private school. Why did you opt for private school and not a public school? Because when we where we are in East Africa, we look at SA like being Africa but not Africa, like it's Africa but in the United States. That is our attitude because of how we look at it, like it has developed further. So why the choice of a private school and not a public school? What we want to just align and see how our system is, how your system is, and we see if we share notes. Are we on the same level, or like, let's check it out.
Okay, why a private school?
Yeah.
Let's say it depends. Like I went to a private school, so it was choice. So as a parent, I decided to take my children to a private school because I was brought up the same way. So the next private school, with special needs will be another private school. But besides that, our government, our system, they do have schools with special needs. It's just that with them, the difference is that they don't have the specialist within the school, so the specialist has to visit the school. So that's the difference. And also in terms of the classes, it's not like smaller classes like they have in private school. So it's something that South Africa is still working on, to integrate what the other private schools are doing. Because if I can remember properly, with our president's speech, it's one of those things that he has mentioned in his speech, that those are the things that they are looking into in terms of schooling.
So that means, we've introduced a new curriculum and it's supposed to be inclusive. According to you as a parent, What would you say inclusion is when a school says we're trying to be inclusive and integrating? Because you remember you had mentioned that your child is just about to be integrated into the mainstream.
Definitely.
So what for the parents who can't quite grasp what that means, because it is a debate that has been ongoing in the special needs parent space, what is this integration our government is talking about? Since your child is about to get there, just enlighten us a bit.
If we can speak about integration is when the child is ready, is ready to be in a mainstream. When I say mainstream, to be in the same school as children that are at par according to the spectrum, And if your child then has ADD, meaning that the child is behind, the child cannot be integrated in that school. He cannot cope or she cannot cope. The child will struggle. But if that child is in a school of special needs, they will iron out all the challenges that the child has and make sure that their child is able to be integrated into the mainstream.
So that means basically he can be with other children, neurotypical children, and he's comfortable. Now he can behave without them feeling like some pressure
because what makes them as well to make a lot of mistakes is the pressure that they are given. Remember, children, I believe a human being is born competitive no matter what. So same as children, they compete with each other. Just imagine you receive your test marks and you have 20, and someone that doesn't have special needs has 80%, 100%. How will do to that child?
The
emotions as well, because that's what they said. Like he's emotional, not ready, to be in grade 1. So it tells you that they get affected emotionally,
and even their self-confidence. You can imagine when you're being told you're here, you're there.
That's true.
Yeah. So that's why we say I think that's why we always say teach them the way they understand, instead of putting them at par with everyone else when they have challenges.
Because if you can go back while you were still at school, all of us had different methods of coping when it's time to exams. Others had a way of just reading the book and they grasp everything. Then some of us, like for me instead, I had to read through my notes for me to grasp. For me, even now while I'm studying, because I've been studying the past few years, so for me to be able to study and cope with my books, I must read through my notes. I must read through my notes and read them again. Then I'll get better marks. So it's the same thing as children. It's just that it's a matter of our own governments. When I say governments, all over the continent or the globe, to understand that all of us have special needs, including a child that we think they are okay. They have special needs because, for example, my son, the second born, he doesn't have ADHD or ADD. I put him in the same school, but what they have found out is that his core muscles were not strong. Like he couldn't sit still because he couldn't focus, but his core muscles were not strong, so he couldn't sit longer. So he had to go to an occupational therapy. So now he can sit still for a long time. He can focus for a long time. So each and every child, I believe, they have underlying problems, but others are more pronounced.
Wow. Okay, we'll go back to this sensitive part we call our cost of living as special needs parents. I know here we try and look at it and we look at like we have to budget to properly, like if I was to say proper diet, proper doctor, enough sessions to get them where they're supposed to be, the correct school, I'll need 500,000 Kenyan shillings per month.
That's true.
Per month to be able to give that to my child. So is there, in SA, I believe the costs could be similar, but is there anything that the government does to make it any less? And apart from like the way you said, in private school the doctors are there, but then you said you have to drive out to go see a different specialist.
Yes, which is
so that's just the pediatrician only. But the other services are in the school.
In the school.
And in the public, is it the same? The ones who visit, is it the same full team, or is it some of them?
I think it's some of them.
It's
some of them, because remember, it's something that our own government that still has to integrate it into schools. And our learning system in South Africa, if it has revolved so many times, and with the changes that we had politically, from what we have from apartheid to having democracy. So many things are being, being introduced and being worked on. So the schools that you're talking about, you find that it was your pre-white schools that always had the right system in it. It's just that with us ethnic groups, it's something that it's new. It's new for all of us. I mean, if you're an ethnic parent and they come and tell your child has ADHD or your child is just 1 to 3, you want to ask yourself why is that?
What is that?
What is that? Because we our parents, my mother doesn't know
what until now, right?
Until now,
you try to explain, and they just like that one.
Yes, and make them understand. So with our culture as well, as African people, it comes into place because you know very well if something is not okay with your child, the in-laws will say perhaps 1, 2, 3, or this and this and that. That comes into play. It's something that is new that we must, all of us get accustomed to it, not and read about it. Knowledge is very important. It's the same thing as depression. Depression to so many, it's
a new thing. Which has been there for forever.
It has been there forever, but they will class it as something else. But depression has been there because we've seen so many cases of suicide in the past. So it's the same thing as the neuro disorder that we have, because it's not a disease, it's a disorder and a condition. That just needs to be corrected in a certain way. So there's so many things.
Just touching that education part of the costs of education and everything. How is it?
You know what? When it comes to education, it doesn't come cheap. Obviously, we spend about between 5 and 6. What is it, your currency?
Well, it's 18 euros, then I'll convert.
We spend between 50 to 60,000 per month.
What?
Right? Yes.
So that's per month. So it's generally the same.
To be honest with you, it's sacrifice. It's sacrifice. As a parent, to say, you know what, I'm sacrificing this for my child, because what I know is that foundation phase is the most important phase that a child, because once they miss that phase, I mean, you cannot get it back. Your child will struggle forever. And I wouldn't want my child to struggle to read once he reaches university level. So he must be able to cope. My child must be able to cope when I'm there. He must be able to cope when I'm not there. So that's the standard we have set. But for him going back to the mainstream, for me it's going to be like, okay, at least now, we won't be paying so much.
The cost
is going to come down. It's a sacrifice that you take as
for a while. And medically, how is the medical support?
Medical support, okay, in South Africa we have medical aid. Some of the medical aids they do cover, some they don't cover. But him having a father that is in the medical field, so he's able to make things easier. But once again, is that we have SARS. I don't know what do you guys have, which is your that deals with your taxes and VAT. KRA. So with us it's SARS. So you are able to to write for rebates. Yes, and send to them so that you get your rebates.
Do you have to have like proof?
Yes, you should have proof. There must be
not like receipt proof. Like for you now, you're going there as because my child is special needs, right? That's why I'm asking for a rebate.
No, there must be proof. Obviously, first proof is that the child is registered in that special needs school, and then this is the proof of that you are paying seeing this 1, 2, 3, 4. Obviously, that has to be attached.
All right. And the community now. Let's come to the extended family. It's usually the toughest conversation to have. How did they take it? How do they treat your child? How do you like your neighbors, or when you go to public and he's that boy who's always alone? How did guys take it before we got it to where he is at 16?
Because with him, we attended to him when he was still young. It wasn't too obvious. You couldn't see it that it's happening. This is why it was like I was in denial.
Okay.
Because you couldn't see it. When they have ADD, it's not that pronounced.
Yeah.
And it's not that to an extent that when it dozes off, you can easily see it. It only happens when he's in a classroom and when he has to sit still and work with other children. But with the help that he has got, he's able to integrate. He plays with other children. He has friends, So when you attend the situation at very early, it's better than later.
Okay. So at least you attribute to the early intervention as to what has helped. So I'll go back a bit to the medical system. So when you identified this in school, so who walked with you to tell you, okay, you need to do this? Was it something because of your maternal instinct? Or was it that teacher said, oh, go take him for this assessment, take him for that? Who walked with you with this journey?
Okay, what happened is once they reach grade 0, we call it grade 0 before they go to grade 1, they get assessment. Psychologists, educational psychologists.
Everywhere.
Not in every school, but in private school. They get assessed, if to see if they are ready and to see if they are performing according to. So with the report that you get from a psychologist, then it tells you this and this and that. That's a normal psychologist. From there they refer you to an educational one. Then that's the one that sits with your child. So the school principal and the teacher, they are the ones that will explain, and then they will refer you to the right schools that are available within the country, or the area.
And for you now as a parent, now once they said, okay, this is it, how long did it take you to embrace and accept, like, okay, this is it, I gotta deal with it? Or did you have some time of like, oh my God, what did I do?
As I said, I was in denial. I don't want to lie to you. I was in denial for a long time, up until it started at Flamboyant.
Okay.
When he received his first report, that's when... then you start slowly to accept, and once you start seeing the changes and the improvement in the child, because what they told me is that I must try and send him perhaps to the kitchen 5 times a day. And see if he remembers what I told him to do.
So you send him like, go bring me a cup, go bring me
this, tidy up, and if he doesn't do it, or maybe comes back and says, I've forgotten what did you say, then you must know at that time he has zoned off. He didn't hear you. He was standing there. He'll go to the kitchen, but what you have asked him, he won't come back with what you have asked. Then that's when you see there's a problem. Sometimes it happens at this age where I come home, I love tea, so when I come home I'll ask boys, so I'll ask him to make me tea. He will stand in between the lounge and the kitchen and stop, what did you say again? But with that now, because of Facebook and that, then they tend to forget not to focus. But you send them to do things. This is when I got my boys to be involved within the chores of the house, because I'll ask them, do this, do that, do that. When I come back, why you didn't do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Because this is your list that I've given you.
Also, you give them a list of what they're supposed to do.
I don't write, I tell them.
You just tell them.
It's up to them if they write. If they don't write, they must remember what I
told them. So you pass the responsibility to them.
Definitely. So in that way, you help your child, it's part of growth. No wonder African children, most of us that grew up back, before the 90s, we are better than the children of today because we're given chores. And, we didn't need, I always say that with us, we didn't need an OT. Because we had our own indigenous games that we used to play, hopscotch, I don't know what you call it, we call dingendo, where you have your 12 stones. You put your circle, you put your stones, then you throw, and then you. That's coordination, because I would look at what the homework that the OT will ask me to do, and I was like really? For us, I have to hop like a frog. These are the things that we do. We will hop. I don't know if you guys did play where you put a string around where you have to jump in, jump out.
Like hoops and stuff like that.
So we did that without an OT, paying someone.
You pay someone to play with your child.
Those things, skipping, my children had to skip from an OT. These are the things that will play outside, hold that side, and start skipping, because those are the things that trains your muscles and strengthen those muscles. So I believe as an African community, we've lost it ourselves.
So that means we need to go back to our back in the days, playing, not PS, sitting in front of the television.
Allow your children to play outside. For us, we had to get a trampoline as well. We're advised to, just imagine, now you have to spend, we're advised to get a trampoline for your children to jump up and down so that they can strengthen their muscles.
Skip the rope.
But if they skip the rope and play, indigenous games, there would have been, I think there would be better improvement than them sitting all the time and be on the PS. Yeah.
And how did the brother take it? Like when he grew, because he's the second one, right?
Yeah.
Were you scared like he would copy some of the behaviors and stuff like that, or get affected by?
Not really, because we've allowed children to be individuals, and their age gap is 4 years apart. So they're not very close, but they're very close, like very, very close. But what I love about them is like they love to be individual. My older son, when you are a mother, we have this thing, you find them the same clothes.
Yes, that's true.
When he started turning like 12, he just, what, I don't want the same clothes as the younger. But I know my own clothes, I'm my own person. I'm my own person. He must be his own. So they love individuality. So you can see. I think what makes it easier for them is that the other one looks a bit like me, and the other one is like the father. So yeah, they have different personality. It stands out. Their personality differently stand out, and also it depends as well because he doesn't have any of the neuro spectrum. The second one, it's only the first one. So perhaps if he had, maybe he would have copied the other one. Yeah.
So at least the best thing is like by the time the second child was born, you had already identified that this one needs help and started doing something.
No, at that time I haven't. Remember, at that time he was 4 years old. He was still in a play group.
Okay.
And they would tell me this, and I'll say no.
You see, it was there, but then you are still in denial.
No, forever in denial. I allowed him to go for speech therapy. So it started when he was small. That's what I'm saying. With him, at least it was attended when he was small. He would go to occupational therapy. He would go to speech therapy at playgroup, grade 1. But with that help, he couldn't get it right. We had to move him to
a special school. So it was about both the school, the therapy. So even if you force him to stay in a regular school and give these other things, it might not work.
Because the classes are bigger. Remember, the classes are bigger. Like in private school, you get classes from 20 to 25.
With 2 teachers.
One teacher.
Wow.
That's a big classroom for them. So that's why he had to go to a school where they have smaller classes up until 7 learners. Once they're in grade 9, they can accommodate up until 12 learners because they are ready to go for mainstream, so they can be integrated.
Okay. Wow, I'm looking at time, and we gotta run, and I'm sure you all enjoyed that. Like just listening to a different, like all the way south. We're on the east side, no? And she's from the south, and you can see we share the same experiences. So being a special needs parent, actually demographically where you're placed in the continent of Africa, you have the same stories, and that's why we're here on Neuro Digest, trying to educate you, trying to enlighten the environment. You've heard it from her. It is the things that she did in good time, remember. In good time, and that is what we have to start doing. Accept your child the way they are. We all expect a bouncing baby, but God knows why he gave you that special child, and I'm sure he's given you the grace to also be able to take care of that child. And by doing so, that means we put them in the right environment.
Very true.
We put them with the right doctors and the right team, and then we teach them their way of learning. You see, at 16, her child is going to be integrated into a regular school. So as parents, fellow parents, let us do what is right by our children. Let us put them in the right place at the right time. Denial is your baby to carry, but then don't stay there for so long that your child will miss out on what is essential for them to be able to thrive in their space. Also remember, don't focus on the negative of what they cannot do, but also focus on what it is that they can do and build it. That way they will soar like an eagle. Here on Neuro Digest, once again, Sylvia Mochabo with our guest, Lucia Ochan, all the way from Mpumalanga in South Africa. Yes? Give us a like just say a word in sources so that we can feel it.
Thank you. First of all, thank you for having me. I'll be representing Africa.
Yes.
at Mrs. Club in China end of November up until the 8th of December. So I am a continent representative. So as we raise awareness and create this drive, what I can say, Miyabonga Emakaya, which one you want to say?
You know, as when the minute you say South Africa, we expect
okay,
the Sosaka and so how do you say?
With us it's different. I'm a Swazi.
Okay.
I'm Swati. So this is a Xhosa skit. Xhosa, Xhosa. Xhosa. So we are all Ngunis. It's just that the dialect is different. So it's the Zulus, the Swazis, the Ndebeles, and the Xhosas. So it's Xhosas. So I'm not. With us, we don't have so many kiki.
So I will not even attempt saying that again because I'll fail head flat. So, all right, thank you for accepting our invitation within your busy schedule and that short stay. And we will not forget our very able interpreter, Maureen Maita, for always being here on Neurodigest with us to make sure all are included. Remember, we're leaving no one behind, and that is why we're carrying this awareness campaign, so that we can have also the neurodiverse community included in everything we say, we do, and we participate in. Till next time, I'm your host Sylvia Mochabo, and stay tuned, and don't forget, pass in your comments so that we know what we can bring to you next. And it's goodbye from the studio until next time. I say bye.
Bye.